Mr. Alvey's with us for the department. Casa is with us. Mr. Michelson is with us representing the children. I'm sorry, the child. Mr. Barfield's with us representing the mother, Mary Beebe. She is not with us, has not been with us, as I note, since the adversary hearing way back in August of last year. Mr. Barfield, are you expecting your client?
Your Honor, no, the court is exactly correct. My client has basically been absent this entire case and has not shown, quite frankly, any intent to participate in these proceedings.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Ms. Stevens is with us representing an unknown father. I think Ms. Stevens it may have been you. I do have that Mercedes Benavides in the waiting room. And how did you say, how's she related?
She's the biological sister of the child in question.
Okay. Is she an adult?
Yes.
Okay. And are you wanting her in, or is she going to be a witness, or?
If you don't want to let her in, since she's not a lawyer, that's fine. I'll call her as a witness later. She has contacted every lawyer in this case. And I just feel like since she just found out about it, and she is the biological sister, that she needs to have a voice. So let me just call her as a witness.
I can do that. Now, if nobody's going to invoke the rule, or if anybody objects to letting her in, I don't have a problem with her coming in. But if anybody wants to invoke the rule, we'll leave her and let her be called as a witness.
I'm not invoking
No one objects?
No objection.
All right, let's go ahead and let her in. And that only leaves Ms. Asante. Mr. Alvey, is that going to be your witness?
It is, Your Honor.
All right, let's get her in too. Mr. Alvey, you may call your first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would call Mavis Apoko Asante.
All right.
Mavis, you're a St. Francis Ministries permanency specialist.
Yes, sir.
And in that capacity, you're familiar with Dalton.
Yes, sir.
And Dalton is 8 months old and currently in a foster home in Armstrong County, Texas.
Yes.
Is that placement meeting all of his needs?
Yes, sir.
And has he been in that placement since the beginning of the case?
Yes, sir.
And this case began at the time of Dalton's birth.
Yes.
And are there any concerns that you have with that particular foster home?
No.
And have they expressed the interest in possibly adopting if that becomes available to them?
Yes.
Is that a positive environment for Dalton if he was to remain in that environment?
Yes.
They could continue to financially support him, emotionally support him, make sure he gets to all of his medical and dental appointments.
Yes.
As long as the department continues as the possible permanent managing conservator, we would make sure that he would be offered services for any developmental delays or any issues that he may have later in his life.
Yes.
Because he's a foster child, he actually would have some rights to some benefits even up through college and looking for work.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes.
His mother is Mary Beebe.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Mary was with us at an adversary hearing, but she has not participated since then. Have you had any contact with her?
No.
Has she provided you with any information that she has worked any services at this time?
No.
There were court-ordered services that she was supposed to work.
Yes.
Those services were detailed for the facts that Miss Beebe had discussed with prior caseworkers.
Yes.
And those were ordered by the court in order to allow Miss BB the opportunity to have the child returned to her.
Yes.
She has not worked any of those services.
No, and she told me that she wasn't going to work any services.
Now, the reason for the removal of Dalton at birth was because Miss Beebe and Dalton tested positive for methamphetamines
Yes.
at the time that he was born.
Yes.
Would you agree with me that methamphetamine use during pregnancy endangers the child?
Yes.
And that causes the environment that the child would come into to be dangerous?
Yes.
Miss Beebe has had the opportunity to exercise visits with Dalton.
Yes.
Has she exercised any visits with Dalton?
No, and she told me she wasn't going to do it.
And in fact, she let you know pretty much from the beginning that she didn't want to have anything to do with this child.
Yes.
So would you agree with me that she has not had significant contact or regular visitation with Dalton?
Yes.
It's been more than 6 months since Dalton's been in the care of the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services.
Yes.
To be exact, do you know when this case started?
Yeah, this case started on 8/02. Dalton was born on 7/28, but he stayed in the hospital for a time, and then he went into foster care on 8/02.
Well, that's right at 9 months ago, correct?
Yes, almost.
Okay. When you visited with Miss Beebe prior to her disappearing, did she advise you of who the father of this child was?
No.
She actually gave us a name of a man, but that person turned out to be not the father.
Correct.
And she didn't provide you with any other names?
No.
Nobody has stepped forward or come forward and asked to be named as the father to this child? The department did a paternity registry search. As far as you know, no one has recorded or filed to be the father to this child.
No.
So we have no real idea who the father to this child is.
No.
And we don't have any real idea as to what kind of environment Miss Beebe's living in at this time, do we?
No. She told me to meet her at her house. I went over there and she never showed up.
She was using methamphetamines at the time Dalton was born. Would you agree with me? Unless she demonstrated that she is safe and sober from methamphetamines, that she would not be able to provide a safe and stable environment for this child.
Yes.
Do you believe that it's in the best interest of Dalton for Mary Beebe's parental rights to be terminated?
Yes.
Do you believe that it's in the best interest of Dalton for any unknown father's parental rights to be terminated?
Yes.
If the unknown father's parental rights are terminated and Miss Beebe's parental rights are terminated, then Dalton would be available for adoption, and we would begin looking for an appropriate adoptive home.
Yes.
I'll pass the witness.
All right, thank you. Ms. Asante, I read in the original removal affidavit that Miss Beebe also admitted that she had used methamphetamine 2 days prior to the birth of this child. Is that correct?
Correct. And she admitted to using alcohol as well.
Okay. Would you say that the service plan that was created for Miss Beebe was a reasonable effort to return Dalton to her? Had she worked the services?
Yes.
And I believe you testified she's not regularly visited or maintained contact with Dalton?
No, she has not.
Would you say then that she's demonstrated an inability to provide Dalton with a safe environment?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. All right, then, Mr. Barfield, questions?
Just a little, Your Honor. Ma'am, what has my client, Ms. Beebe, done to mitigate the reasons for removal in this case?
Nothing.
Okay. And you do not, do you have any current contact information from her that is reliable?
No, the number recently is not working anymore.
And do you feel that she has, other than showing up at the adversary hearing, do you feel that my client has just pretty much just abandoned this child?
Yes.
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Asante, with regards to the unknown father, was there a paternity registry search done, and is it on file in this case?
Yeah, one was done.
Is it on file in this case?
I'm not sure whether it's on file, but I remember one was done.
Okay, well, we're going to have to be sure that it was filed before I can rule on anything to do with an unknown father. So,
Judge, I can inform you that there is a registry search on file with the court.
okay, and no one came forward. I believe she testified to that.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay, all right, thank you. Ms. Stevens, questions?
No questions, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Michelson.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mavis, it was your testimony that the parent has shown no capability in providing for the basic needs of Dalton.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the parenting capabilities of the foster mother.
Could you please repeat what he said?
Sure. What are the parenting capabilities of the foster mother?
Oh, she is great. She takes care of Dalton. She takes him to his medical appointments. Whatever Dalton needs, she's ready to provide for him.
Okay. And is that a stable home?
Yes.
Okay. And what are the bonds that Dalton has with the foster mother?
Oh, it's a very strong bond. He loves his foster mom and then his foster siblings. When you go there and they are playing together, it's so much of a delight.
Okay.
He's really bonded with them.
And what are the bonds with the foster mother's family with Dalton?
I don't know about the extended family, but I know about the immediate family.
Okay. And what kind of programs is Dalton involved right now in terms of development?
Yeah, he's in ECI, so they come to the home and then do the therapy for him.
Okay. And what kind of therapy is he receiving?
Oh, he's receiving 3 occupational and speech and then physical.
Okay. And how is his progress?
Oh, extremely great.
Great. No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, does anyone else have further questions for Ms. Asante? All right,
No,
then,
Your
Mr.
Honor.
Halvey, do you have any other witnesses?
No, Your Honor, we rest.
All right, Mr. Barfield, any witnesses?
No witnesses, Honor. We'd rest and close as well.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Stevens.
I would just like to call Mercedes Benavides. She's the sister of the child in question.
Okay, Ms. Benavides, if you'd unmute, please. Ms. Stevens?
Ms. Benavides, how old are you?
I'm 22 years old.
And how are you related to the child in this case?
We do have the same mother.
Okay. And when did you find out about your sibling?
I found out on January 19th of this year.
Okay. And you are not in a position to necessarily adopt at this time, correct?
No, not at this time.
And you were told by CPS you didn't need a lawyer since you weren't going to adopt. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. But you do want to have contact with your sibling, correct?
Yes, I would like to.
Okay. And I've advised you to get a lawyer and intervene in the case as a party to make sure that happens, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any concerns, really? I mean, you probably don't have any concerns since you haven't met the foster mom or anything like that, right?
No. I'm wanting to make sure that Dalton does get taken care of, so.
But you have no reason to believe that he's not being taken care of, right?
No.
And if you weren't so young, you would probably step up and adopt, but you're very, very young to be doing that, correct?
Yes, and I don't have my own house right now, or else, I would.
Yeah. Are you married?
I have a fiance, so I am engaged. Yes.
And mainly you just want a relationship with your sibling, right?
Yes.
Okay, pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Mr. Alvey, any questions for Ms. Benavides?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Barfield?
I just, given the witness, yeah, and I guess I have, since I said close, I guess I'm asking to reopen technically. Ma'am, have you had any contact with, my client, the mother of Dalton?
I have not.
Okay. And do you know her whereabouts?
I know she lives in Wellington, Texas, so she is kind of hard to get a hold of because she doesn't have her own phone.
Okay. And do you think it would be in Dalton's best interest to be with her?
With what I just heard about her being on methamphetamine and all that when she gave birth with Dalton, I don't think that he should go with her.
Okay. Pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Mr. Michelson?
Just one question, Your Honor. Are you willing to participate in any program the department suggests in terms of fostering your relationship with your half-brother?
Programs like what would the programs do?
I guess I'm not in a position to say what those would be, but I'm just asking about your willingness to participate.
Yeah.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
All right. Anyone else have questions for Ms. Benavides? Ms. Benavides, have you had any contact with Dalton since his birth?
I have had a when my aunt and my grandma did go do a visitation, I was on FaceTime with my aunt also. So I have seen pictures of Dalton. I got to see him over the phone, and I guess, yeah, I have had contact with Dalton since I found out.
Okay. All right. And I just want to clear this up with everyone. I've heard a lot of people saying Dalton, like Dalton with an A. I show it's Dolton. Am I correct, or is my paperwork wrong?
No, that's correct, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Okay, then. Ms. Stevens, did you have any other witnesses?
No, Your Honor, rest.
Thank you. Mr. Michelson, any witnesses?
No witnesses, Your Honor.
All right. Then, one other question, Ms. Asante, if you'd unmute. Has there been any kind of, just your normal kind of background checks on Ms. Benavides?
No, I didn't do a background check on Ms. Benavides.
Okay, I know she's relatively new to even finding out about this case. All right, then, Mr. Michelson, recommendations?
I would recommend that the rights of the mother and presumed father or alleged father, unknown father, be terminated, and that the department be made permanent managing conservator, and that any change in placement requires the notification of the court prior to placement.
Okay. And Casa, anything to add?
Your Honor, I don't have anything to add. Mavis has kind of covered it. Where he is currently at is a safe, nurturing home that they have embraced him, and he is thriving and doing very well where he is currently located.
Okay. All right. Thank you, ma'am. Give me just a second here. All right, then, based upon what I've heard today, first of all, I find that it's in the best interest of the child that the parental rights of the mother, Mary B.B., be terminated. I'll terminate those rights today based on Texas Family Code section 161.001, subsections B, 1D, E, N as in Nancy, and O. I will further find that it's in the best interest of the child that any unknown father's rights be terminated. And I'll terminate those rights today based on Texas Family Code section 161.002, subsection B3. I'll name the department permanent managing conservator, continue Dalton term placement. I'll order Mr. Michelson remain in this case as the attorney ad litem for Dalton. All other court-appointed relationships will be dismissed after all appellate and de novo periods have expired. I'll order that Dalton not be moved from his current placement without a prior court order. And I will order that if Ms. Benavides' background check turns up or does not turn up anything that's concerning, or anything else turns up that's concerning, that she may have visitations as long as there's no perceived threat to Dalton to have visits with his half sister. So, all right, we will have the next review hearing in this case on July 6th, 2023. As far as I know, that will be by Zoom like today's hearing, so parties and attorneys can go on the court's online docket a day or two in advance of July 6th to see exactly what time that hearing will take place. Casa is with us. Ms. Grant is with us representing the child. Mr. Pirtle is with us representing the mother. Ms. Rubio. Ms. Kincaid is with us representing the father, Mr. Martinez. That's all the parties. I have no one in the waiting room. Now, Mr. Alvin.
Your Honor, may I make a motion prior to beginning the hearing?
Sure.
Your Honor, we're set for a final today. However, at the last court hearing, the court ordered the department to enter into a transitional monitored return, and that extended this case by 6 months. And I would be requesting that we reset the final, and here today is a permanency hearing in the best interest of the children for the fact that the autopsy has not been returned yet, and I'm still missing important information that allows me to continue on a final hearing in this matter. So I guess it would technically be a motion for a continuance, Your Honor.
All right. Any objections?
None from the department, Your Honor.
Judge, my only objection would be the last time we were considering returning these children or this child back to the parents. It ended up being ordered that the grandparents who have custody, that the parents would move in with the grandparents, and there's just nothing left for these people to do. And in all due respect to Mr. Albee, it has nothing to do with him, but the department just dropped the ball on anger management, and that's all they have left to do. That's what we've been waiting on for months. We've been waiting on a autopsy report for months and months and months. There is zero evidence left to keep these children or this child away from her parents. And we'd ask that they be returned, whether the case is extended or not, Judge.
All right. Well,
Your Honor, I believe we're also still missing family counseling that was supposed to be done through the Jennings, and that would also be beneficial to the best interest of the children. And that we still have a safety concern that's not been mitigated by not knowing the results of the autopsy, in my opinion, Judge.
Judge, in response, what is the family counseling? I noticed there's a couples counseling that was added since the last permanency report. It's never been addressed before until this hearing. So I don't know what this family counseling, all the counselors say they're good to go. We're waiting on anger management. I don't know when we added couples counseling to the new plan, but it's been added to this report.
And I meant couples. I think I misspoke, Mr. Pirtle. The couples counseling is the same thing I'm referring to.
Yeah, and it's never been addressed until this report. So it's never been ordered. It's never been required or anything else.
Well, that's not the court's main issue. The court's main issue is, and I'm going to go ahead and just find right now, I'm going to grant Ms. Grant's motion to consider this today as a permanency hearing. Because until we get the autopsy back on the other child, this court finds that there's a continuing danger to the physical health and safety of this child, and it would be contrary to the welfare to return the child to the parents alone today until we get that autopsy report back. This court's not comfortable finding that we still don't know how this child, Madeline, was injured. Today, we don't know, and I'm not comfortable returning the child without supervision until we get that autopsy report. I understand everybody's concerns, and we may run into a time when the transition monitored return runs out and the court's got to make a decision. But I think the court and Ms. Grant want every bit of information they can about the deceased child before we decide the fate of this child. So again, I'll grant that motion. We'll proceed today as a permanency hearing. And as I stated, I know it's supervised, but the parents are living with their child along with the grandparents. So it's not like they're not having contact with their child. So, okay, Mr. Albee, let's proceed as just a permanency hearing.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would call Ms. Haley Grissom.
Okay. Ms. Grissom, if you'd raise your right hand. Trying to find her.
She dropped off when you told her to raise her right hand, Judge.
I don't blame them.
Maybe I'll ask her if she'd rather write the left hand.
Thank you, Your Honor. Haley, you're a St. Francis Ministries permanency specialist.
Yes, sir.
In that capacity, you're familiar with Madeline, the child, the subject of our suit today.
Yes.
And she is currently placed in her grandparents' home.
Yes.
And is that placement meeting all of her needs at this time?
Yes, they are.
Any special needs or special issues that have arisen with Madeline that we need to make the court aware of today?
No, sir.
Is that placement making sure that she attends all of the appointments, medical, dental, counseling, those kind of things?
Yes.
Is that paternal or maternal grandparents?
It's maternal.
And has the parents, Marisol and Fernando, are they residing in the home with the grandparents also?
Yes, they are.
So they're having, though it may be supervised by the grandparents, they have constant contact with the children or with the child.
Yes. Yes, sir.
All right. Now, you have become the caseworker in this case since our last hearing.
Yes, sir.
All right. And are you aware that Marisol Rubio is the mother to Madeline?
Yes.
And she was ordered to work some services.
Yes, she was.
Has she completed a majority of those services?
She has completed several things. There is, and this was miscommunicated to the court prior to me taking the case in previous court hearings, but there is some individual counseling and couples counseling that still need to be completed.
All right, so let's talk about that. First of all, has she done an anger management class?
Not yet.
All right. There was some testimony previously that the anger management was mishandled by the prior caseworker. Is that what your understanding is?
Yes, sir.
And have you scheduled an anger management class for Miss Rubio?
I haven't scheduled it, but I have sent the payment to the correct person for her to be able to get that done.
Okay. And you said that she still lacked some individual counseling. Has she completed any individual counseling?
She completed 2 sessions of individual counseling back in July of 22.
Has she completed any additional counseling that she needs, individual counseling that she needs?
Will you repeat that question? I'm sorry.
Yes. Does she need to complete any additional individual counseling?
Yeah, she needs to complete 4 additional ones and then follow the recommendations by the counselor.
Have you discussed that with Miss Rubio?
Yes, I did let her know about that miscommunication.
And even though the prior caseworker and the prior report said that she had completed all of her individual counseling, you're telling the court that she has not completed that individual counseling?
That is correct.
You also in your report say that she needs to do couples counseling. Was that part of the original plan?
That was part of the original family plan when I looked back on it. Yes, sir.
And has Miss Rubio and Mr. Fernando Martinez Lerma done couples counseling at this time?
No, they haven't. If you wouldn't mind me clarifying one thing, it may not have been on the original family plan, but it was a recommendation made on both parents' psychosocials that were done by Steve Jennings.
So even in the family plan says that when the parents have to do a psychosocial, they have to follow the recommendations as from that psychosocial.
Yes, sir.
And you're saying that the psychosocial recommended that this couple have couples counseling,
Yes.
and have either parent begin couples counseling?
No.
Have you discussed couples counseling with both parents?
I did let them know it was something that needed to be completed.
Have they, do you know if they've started or attempted to schedule any couples counseling?
I don't know if they've attempted to schedule that yet.
Have you advised them who they needed to contact for couples counseling?
Yes, that is Steve Jennings.
The father is Fernando.
Yes.
And he was also ordered to work to complete an anger management or anger control class.
Yes.
And has he completed that?
No.
And is that going to be the same class that mom has to complete?
Yes, sir.
And have you made payment arrangements for the provider in that case?
Yes.
And that may not have been done correctly prior to you becoming the caseworker.
It was not. It was sent to the wrong provider.
And have you advised Mr. Martinez that he needs to do this anger control class?
I've let him know through mom. I haven't talked to him directly.
Okay. Have you also talked with Marisol about the fact that Fernando also needs to complete his individual counseling?
Yes.
And let me talk to you about that. Do you know how much individual counseling he's completed?
He completed 2 sessions of individual counseling as well.
And how many sessions does he need to complete?
He needs to complete 4 additional and then follow the recommendations at that point.
And again, that's not what the prior caseworker or the prior reports said, but this is what you have discovered since you became the caseworker.
Yes.
Have you observed these parents with Madeline at this time?
I've been able to see mom with Madeline. Dad was at work when I went.
And did you have any concerns about the relationship or the way that mom was with the handling the child when she was with the child?
No, I didn't see any concerns during my visit.
If the court was willing to continue the family unit remaining in the same home, do you have any objections to that?
No, I don't.
If the court was to ask or recommend that, or if the parties are asking for some unsupervised visitation, do you have any concerns about unsupervised visits?
I would have concerns regarding unsupervised visitation.
Yeah, let's talk about this case. Started because there was a baby that died and it's been unexplained. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And there's an autopsy